Over the course of the last few months, brewing tensions between the government of India and Twitter have been constantly making the news. Twitter's double standards over free speech and defiance to comply with India's new IT laws have brought things to a point where the government of India may have to take action against the microblogging platform. But the question remains, what compelled the government of India to come up with the new social media guidelines? And why is Twitter the only social media platform not complying with the new guidelines? In February of 2021, the Indian government announced its new IT regulations, also known as the intermediary guidelines. Now, these rules are aimed at regulating content on the largely unmonitored digital space. Now, there are three main things under the new regulations. One, all social media platforms like Facebook, with all of its entities, Twitter, Telegram, and other similar firms, had to set up a grievance redressal and compliance mechanism. This included appointing a resident grievance officer, a chief compliance officer, and a nodal contact person. Two, all social media firms had to submit a monthly report of user complaints and the following action taken by the company. Now, this makes the social media firms accountable to legal requests for removing contentious posts. And if the company fails to remove the content, even after 36 hours from when the order was issued, then their employees will be held criminally liable for failing to comply with the government's requests. And lastly, the specific to instant messaging applications, the firms need to make provisions for tracking the originator of the message. Now, if companies fail to comply with any of these requirements, then the government will take away the firm's indemnity, commonly known as the legal protection under Section 79 of the IT Act. Now, this is exactly what happened with Twitter. In May, a special cell of Delhi visited Twitter's office in New Delhi, and they sought an explanation as to why Twitter had labeled an alleged opposition toolkit as manipulated media. In return, Twitter went on a tirade against the government as the flag bearer of free speech. Government of India slammed Twitter over its stand and asked it not to be delusional about the custodian of free speech. The stage was set for the much-needed face-off between governments and the unregulated big tech companies. On the 16th of April, Twitter's intermediary status was revoked after repeated warnings from the Indian government. India's Information and Technology Minister, Ravi Shankar Prasad, slammed the microblogging site for its deliberate act of non-compliance and misuse of power. He said, and I quote, "If any foreign entity believes that it can portray itself as the flag bearer of free speech in India to excuse itself from complying with the law of the land, such attempts are misplaced." Twitter is now the only American platform to lose its legal protection in India. Now, what does this mean? Twitter will now be held responsible for all tweets and data posted by it. It will be editorially responsible for all content going around on its platform. Now, on the 18th of June, Twitter India's representative appeared before a parliamentary panel to discuss the issue of its guidelines and the misuse of its platform. During that meeting, the obvious question came up: will Twitter follow the law of the land? And to this, the representative said that we, by which it's meant Twitter, will follow our own policies. To this, the parliament members, in a sharp tone, told Twitter India that the law of the land is supreme and that the company needs to abide by it. Now, Twitter's double standards are clear. It follows different standards for violence at the US Capitol and in India's capital. The question is, for how long can big tech continue to avoid legal repercussions of the content floating on its platforms?
WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.